All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I don't know if whereabouts you're based. I'm here in Toronto. Beautiful evening right here. So I appreciate everybody coming out and spending your evening with us. Um, so as a quick introduction, I'm Riley. I'm one of the co-founders here of TechRec. TechRec is a niche IT recruitment firm. So we recruit a variety of engineering, IT, and data roles. So we're a recruitment firm, but ultimately, we like to give back to the community we work in as well, right? And that's why we try to run the speaker series events on a monthly basis as a way to give back to the community. And the whole purpose of today's event is to connect individuals, share stories, and invite discussion. Is definitely an area that I've needed to learn more about personally. And honestly, it's kind of been an eye-opening experience in having initial conversations with people, seeing some statistics that have been shared with me as well. And it shows that there's like still lots of work to do in this space as well. So I think it's been really interesting for me, and I hope it's really interesting for everybody this evening as well. So for tonight's event, the agenda. So we've got a great lineup of panelists. They're going to share their insights on what it's like to be a woman in tech, with the hope that these discussions help everyone here in their own journey in the tech industry. So tonight's event is going to last about 1 hour, roughly, give or take. That's kind of the vision. So how that's going to be broken up, I'll start by asking the panelists a variety of questions. That'll last about 40 minutes, but we do want this to be something that's really engaging. So there will be question time set aside for at the end of the presentation, I guess at the end of our discussion as well. And I invite everyone here to ask your questions, and we'll definitely get to them probably at the end, and we'll save some time at the end for that. So that should last another 20 minutes or so. Now, a bit of housekeeping before the action starts. So first things first, top right, you should be able to see a picture of your profile. If you'd like, no pressure, obviously fill it out with a picture. You can also add your name, your headline, your LinkedIn profile as well, just in case you want to stay connected with everyone here as well. Questions, I went over that. But there are a few interesting things. So if you're enjoying what people are saying, there's the emoji button on the side. I invite everyone here to show how you're feeling. And, obviously as the presenters, they can see that and it's engaging. Also, if you want to chat and ask questions, or I guess kind of general discussion, you can chat on the side. Hey there, everyone. And we can kind of have a general discussion in here if you want to bring points up or anything like that. Now, if there are questions, I'll delete these. This will be where the questions can be asked. So questions can be asked here. And that'll be the question box just below the speech box. So those are kind of the most important things. Fill out the profile, questions, and then just general communication. And then other than that, just like have fun and enjoy. It's a safe space for everyone to learn and grow. So please don't be shy to ask questions and connect with others. Okay, now I'm done. Oh, we got some. Oh, yeah. So I'm done, and I'm just going to introduce the panelists. So the first panelist would be Dr. Kaleigh Rosenblat. She is a computer scientist and engineering team leader at Google. As a software engineer focused on enterprise security in Chrome, Kaleigh has led efforts to build integrations with top security companies. Before her current role with the Chrome browser enterprise team, Kaleigh managed teams in Google's display ads organization and in Google Maps. Over her career, Kaleigh has trained engineers as she worked with interns, university students, and high school students, encouraging more women to study and work in STEM. So, without any further ado, okay, bring her on stage. Hey, welcome, welcome,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone. I like these emojis.
Kind of fun, right? Kind of
Yeah.
fun. All right, I'm going to keep cooking along here. So the next panelist will be Samira. Samira graduated from York University with a computer science degree and had initially started her career with a medical software company. She spent over 15 years in the industry where she's gained excellent experience in a variety of industries, ranging in the medical, e-commerce, consulting, legal, and SaaS industries. She currently works at 1Password in the developer ecosystems team as an engineering manager, where she helps lead a team of developers to build tools such as 1Password CLI and service accounts. So please welcome me in bringing Samira onto the stage. I'll do that now as well. Okay, welcome
Hey everyone.
Samira.
Hi.
Hey, hey, hey. Okay, and then last, certainly not least, Vivian Lau. So Vivian brings over 15 years of experience in managing software engineering teams and driving key deliverables. She's passionate about empowering and collaborating with talented developers and has helped various Canadian startups scale in their operations. Actually, in 2017, she founded the Vancouver Software Development Managers Meetup. The purpose of the group is to foster a community of engineering managers to grow and support each other. She continues to support and nurture the community's growth through monthly events and mentorship programs. The group has over 1,500 members, which is pretty darn impressive. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that's great. And so recently she worked as the director of engineering at Ada, where she played a crucial role in growing the engineering organization from 50 to 130 people, fostering collaboration and removing chaos. So please help me in welcoming Vivian to the stage.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, here we are. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you all for being here this evening and spending your time with us. Honestly, it's really appreciative. And I guess with no further ado, I'll just kind of jump into the questions. I'll ask the question and I'll kind of pose it to each one of you, and that's how we'll kick things off. So I'll dive in. So I guess Samira, first question. I'll start with yourself. Can you share your journey on how you got into software engineering and what inspired you to pursue this field?
Sure. I actually did not want to go into software engineering, so I wanted to go into arts. And what inspired me to go into software engineering was my parents. They told me I have to. So, and that is the real story. And I struggled through school a little bit. And the first few companies I worked at, I wasn't really sure if I want to stay in software engineering. And then I ended up liking it, and I ended up seeing it in a different light. Especially when I got into full-time coding, I realized there's creativity in coding and I can actually have a lot of fun with it. So I decided to stick around. So that is my journey.
Cool. Very cool. It's funny how parents have that kind of impact on you, right? And but it turned out for the best, it sounds like.
It did.
Excellent. Kaleigh, you're up next. Same thing. Can you please share a bit of your journey and how you got into software engineering and what inspired you to pursue the field?
Sure. I actually went to a public high school in Winnipeg, where I grew up. And in my high school, there was computer science or computer programming. So it started with HyperCard. This is like 1993. So there was HyperCard, we were on Macs. And I wanted to take those classes because as a young girl, I played on like Apple IIe's and early computers when my mom finished her PhD. So I got introduced to computers at that time early. And what I ended up realizing was that I had an affinity for it, and I was also quite competitive, and I was the only girl working in it, right? In my high school. I was the only girl taking that class. So I was just wanting to show that I could do it. So that's why I stayed in computer science through high school. I went into sciences thinking I'd be a doctor, but instead I didn't like chemistry. It didn't work for me at all. Like it doesn't work. And scholarship for computer science. So that's what really helped me on my path. And that's another reason why I'm a huge advocate for gender-based scholarships and just giving you that extra push, that extra confidence you need to study computer science. And that's mostly how it started. I continued on through grad school, and we can talk a little bit about how we make career decisions after that as well.
Cool. Interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And then lastly, Vivian, what about yourself? Like, what can you share a little bit more about your journey and what inspired you?
So, somewhat similar to them, when I was in high school, I wanted to go into business. I wasn't really planning to go with computing science. So I went to those like program called career preparation program where you go to work like in companies for 1 week to try to see how it's like working in that field. And then it was too boring for me for that week, like going into business field basically. And then I like something more creative. So when I went to university, I went into the joint major program of computing science and business. So and that's when I have to take like the major courses for both computing science and business side because I'm still interested in the business side as well. And then later on, I found that I fall in love in, like in the way how I can create something from nothing and then help to solve business problems. So that's something that I found is super exciting for me. So that's why after I graduated from university, I became a full stack developer, which like many years ago they didn't call it full stack; they were like web-based application developer back then. So and that's how I started my career journey, and I really enjoy that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you all for sharing, and kind of similar but different paths. Like everybody kind of got there in a different way, which I think is kind of interesting and kind of shows that you can get into it at any stage, really. Now, in terms of the next question, and I'll pose this one to yourself first, Kaleigh. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced as a woman in the tech industry, and how have you overcome them? Yeah, we're just going right at it right
Yeah, let's
away.
just jump right in.
Jump right in,
Funny.
exactly.
It sort of feels like Jeopardy.
Yeah.
So I think the first challenge, and I don't really know the whole audience if I should be focused on. I often talk to university classes, and I think this is not a university class group of people, right? So I'm going to start talking just about career challenges. There are plenty of challenges that I'm sure most of you have been through already. So I'll try to talk about career challenges, and I think the biggest challenge that I had was taking risks and accepting that I might not know how to solve something, or I might not even understand the problem that I'm supposed to solve. Um, I've now gotten to the point where, I've switched teams multiple times within Google. I went to a startup, I came back. I'm confident that I know I will get to a solution. I will be able to produce impact, even if I can't see it and I can't even understand the space. Like, I was in ads, I've been in graphics, and I'm now in enterprise security. And those are all like in depth areas that require a lot of expertise. And I think the challenge is it's really scary when you don't know how to solve a problem, right? The solution is just being confident that you have the skills to be able to find a solution in almost anything that you do. And I think that's what our careers train us for, right? Our careers train us to continuously learn how to solve problems, right? Learn new technologies. I would say one other challenge that we can speak to, especially for women, is managing my directness. So, we all have different communication styles. We all have different ways we come into work and how we collaborate. And women walk this super, super fine line of, and you're all going to know it, you can't be too quiet or too passive or, not have an opinion because then people will think you don't know what you're talking about. On the other hand, you also can't be too direct, too self-assured. You can't take control because then you come across as, bitchy, bossy, controlling, aggressive. Right? Women will tend to come across aggressive when really we're not being aggressive. We're just stating opinions and providing direction and leadership. So I would say that is a huge challenge. And also, I want to recognize it's not fair. It's extremely unfair, and it's also invisible, and it takes a toll. Um, so that has been a challenge. And I think that once you get to a certain level in your career, which I wish they would do earlier, there are things called like executive coaches, and they help you with that, right? So I'm managing my directness. I'm learning how to communicate and ask open-ended questions, so I am come across as less threatening, and I'm able to work better in collaborative groups. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah.
Fun.
No, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And I'm sure like a lot of people, just even based by the emojis there, a lot of people kind of resonated with that as well, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like these are, like I said, like honestly, it's been new for me learning about this stuff, and it's been honestly really, really good and eye-opening as well. So, next, I'll pose the question to yourself, Vivian. What have been some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a woman in the tech industry, and like how have you overcome them?
I think for me, I do have imposter syndrome myself. So I think that I'm not as technical as some other men. I'm not good enough. Like I don't want to do certain thing or take certain risk because I don't have all the skill set that I have physically. And that's something that I have been struggling with. Like even right now, like I still struggle with like that from time to time, basically, right? Sometimes I gain more confidence, sometimes I'm not as confident myself. So that's something that I've been like struggling with as well, for me for a long time, even though throughout my career. And then how do I overcome that is like, first of all, I keep telling myself not to compare myself with another person, because like I should not compare myself. Each of us is unique, and then I have my strengths and other people have their own strengths. They are not the same. So that's why not to compare like myself with another person, but focus on what are the things I can learn and grow myself. what things I can practice more and do more myself as well. And then another thing that I found was super helpful for me was that being more involved in the community. Like earlier, from the intro, I have a community of like engine manager in Vancouver as well. As I was
Mm,
more again getting myself more and more involved in the community, I found out that some of my challenges, other people experience the same challenge as well. No matter they're men or women, they also have the same issues in other companies. They also have this problem they're trying to solve. They also trying to solve it themselves without a good solution too. So
mm,
some of them they may all even not have the skill set themselves to have the same struggles too, right? So and I found that like we are all pretty much the same, and then that actually helped me to know that like I'm not alone, and then actually like other people have the same issue as well, and we can work through the problems together, and then we can just do it step by step, and then trying to continue to like take on opportunities and then try to do more ourselves as well. So that's how I've been like trying to overcome that imposter syndrome.
mm. Wow, honestly, thank you for sharing. That's yeah, that's interesting, and it's like interesting you say, we're all the same, and I think exactly we all have doubts and things that we think, of course, myself included, and it's you don't realize it, but what you think is like a weakness sometimes, other people are like, hey, I thought you did that pretty good. So it's always like a big about perception as well. But thanks for sharing, and yourself, Samira, like what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced as a woman in tech, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, at first I feel both of your challenges. Those I definitely faced myself. The one that I want to call out is one thing I've always had a challenge with, and I'm getting better at, is advocating for myself.
Mm,
I've had like opportunities pass by me, and other people who actually have not shown the capability of taking that role get the opportunities because they advocate and they talk and they be like, this is what I did, this is what I did. Meanwhile, I'm kind of sitting in the corner doing really good work and working hard, but not actually advertising it and
mm,
going to my boss and saying like, look at all the cool stuff I've done. And after a while, I realized I'm missing opportunities because people aren't noticing what I'm doing. And like one thing I've noticed with women specifically is that we get opportunities because we've proven that we can do the job. Whereas I've noticed male colleagues get opportunities because they have potential. So people see potential in
mm,
them and then they get opportunities. So I started to put myself in a position of saying, hey, boss, look at what I'm doing. This is what I did this week. This is the impact that I had. This is the little thing I did over there. This is the thing I did with that person. And at first, it feels weird to just be like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, because it kind of goes against my personality of being like more of a quiet person. But I had to do that. And once I started doing that, opportunities started coming to me, and I started kind of going in a different direction in my career, in a direction that I wanted to. So
mm.
that's been my biggest challenge.
And how did you like even notice to kind of like say, oh, this is something I need to change or want to change, or like how did you like that's pretty self-aware. How did you find that out?
Just observing it over years and years,
Yeah, okay.
watching people around me talk the talk and rarely walk
Mm,
the walk, and me being like, I'm walking the walk, but I'm not talking the talk, so I'm not getting those opportunities. And it wasn't like an overnight realization. It took several years before I was
mm,
like, okay, some of it is on me. I need to start talking more.
mm,
And then I started to do that a little bit, go out of my comfort zone, highlight the stuff that I'm doing, and then also getting the kind of boss that was like, hey, what are you doing over there? Let's talk more. Maybe
mm.
I have some opportunities for you. And got lucky in that regard. And then I started to kind of move that way.
Okay, interesting. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing. And I appreciate I can also see you're battling the sun
Yeah,
coming in there. It's at a really tough angle for you. So if you need to fix the blinds, absolutely go do that. Um, Okay, perfect. Thank you, thanks for sharing. And then, so we'll start with you next, Vivian. So, Vivian, this next question: how do you see the representation of women in tech evolving, and what can be done to further promote diversity and inclusion?
Mm-hmm. I do think that like it's getting better and better because for the companies I work with, they have co-ops program, and I have started seeing more and more female co-ops like joining the companies nowadays, and then that means
Mm,
there are more and more female joining the field, and then they're doing really well as a co-op student as well. So and then
mm,
that's something that I'm super happy to see, and then I'm super supportive for like supporting women in growing in the career in engineering management as well. So yeah, basically some of them like I have been keeping in touch, trying to give them advice as well, and then trying to continue to stay in touch even after they left the company, after the co-op term has been finished as well. But so far, seems like that is improving, as far as I can tell. But what we can do to promote more, I think it really takes the whole company to promote like diversity and inclusion, because I think that sometimes people rely on women saying, "Oh, you're a woman, you can promote more about like diversity and inclusion," basically, right? But I
Right.
do think that we need more. Like the whole company needs to like do all the way from hiring. They have to like have a audit their hiring process. How do they actually like attract like more women into like the company? How do they do the interviews? What are the people that they choose as part of the interview like panel as well? How are they people in a company to advocate for them, to be their champion, to support them? And those are the things that we need entire engine, like the entire like company culture to actually be changed to support more of that instead of just relying on women to have more women joining the company.
Mm, mm. Yeah, well, that's great, and I think like obviously, yeah, I think sharing and having more people involved would be really helpful as well. And so thanks for sharing, Vivian. And then I'll pose it to yourself next, Kaleigh. So Kaleigh, how do you see the representation in tech, women in tech evolving, and what can be done to further promote it?
So I think actually the representation in tech has decreased and is continuing to decrease proportionally compared to the massive growth that we're seeing in like the area called tech. And so there's a bunch of like diversity statistics out around this, and the pandemic did not help, right? That pandemic, women in particular took a huge hit because we're often double caregivers, right, with parents and with children, especially as you start getting into leadership roles. So I don't see it getting better. I do see it getting worse. I know that from the diversity reports I've seen, at least at Google, it's like 1 or 2% up in terms of women who are working in a tech area. Often those roles, like, I don't want to like split hairs here, but a lot of those roles are as a product manager or as a program manager or as a UX designer, and those are great careers as well. But the reality is that on engineering teams, which I'm always on, or leading, there are very few teams that have parity or even anything close to parity, right? At Chrome Montreal, and I've been in Google and a bunch of different places, but in Montreal, like there's a handful, and it's true that there are more women at entry level positions, and the ways that can happen is by increasing our hiring pipelines to have sort of like alternative hiring pipelines. So ones where we have internships, ones that are a lower bar to entry, that take into account our understanding that women won't put themselves up for a job unless they already have all the experience listed. Adding extra supports like networking, making sure that there are resource groups for women so that when you are put onto a team where you're the only woman and you're probably the newest person and like it's not a great situation, you can build up a network of peers. In terms of education, I also think those stats, they are gaining, but since I graduated from computer science, well, my undergrad, which was like, I don't know, 2001, we've only just recently come back up to that height of the women who are represented in computer science or computer engineering degrees. So if you look at the stats, there was like this big dip. A lot of it was because it was a risky area, because it was like the dot-com bubble burst and everyone got scared and people were saying this isn't a real field. People are coming back and realizing that this is actually a field that's here to stay, and it is creative and it is appealing. But quite honestly, I don't see the representation of women in tech increasing in the next 20 years with what we've currently got, on the truck.
Right. Wow, I know. Thanks for sharing. And Kaleigh, like the statistics you shared with me showing kind of the dip, like I remember there was the chart and it was like 1990 to 2001, there was like a huge dip in terms of women going into like computer science programs, I believe it was, or career paths, right? So yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to understand more. Oh, sorry.
No, I just want to say from the comment was to Aru, one thing that we do try to do on that hiring track is making sure that companies do look appealing by having a woman who's on your interview panel. Of course, that just increases the additional load that we expect of women working in tech, which further leads to burnout and makes them want to leave. But we do try to get at least one woman to interview you if you're a woman coming in. And I have like secret ways of finding out who are female candidates. And, recruiters, there are relationships made when you're a woman who hires and who's a leader. I have teams that have women, right? And I have male peers who are like, I can't find any. And I'm like, well, it can be done. You just need to put extra effort into it.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing, Kaleigh. And then Samira, I'll pose it to yourself. How do you see the representation of women in tech evolving, and what can be done to further promote it?
I'm actually aligned with Kaleigh on that. I haven't seen it evolve the last maybe 5-6 years. I've been lucky in that I've been in teams with women, really, really smart, capable women, but it seems to be decreasing. And I thought it was just my own imagination until I did some research recently, and it's really not. I think right now there's like 25% women in tech, and it's been like that for a long time. Like it's not increasing. If it is probably decreasing, like Kaleigh says. So yeah, it's not evolving, and it's a little bit concerning. One thing I personally do is when a company reaches out to me and I'm kind of thinking about moving on and I'm ready to make that move, I actually go on LinkedIn and I look through all of their engineering groups and I look for women in leadership. And if I don't see a healthy number of women in leadership, like if I see 2 managers, hopefully if I'm lucky, a director and the female director, which is rare. I usually don't engage with that company because that tells me a lot about that company. So that is a very important thing to me. And when I do interviews, the first thing I ask is I don't see women in your company. What's going on there? And everybody says, oh yeah, it's a problem. We're working on it. And I'm like, how? What are you actually doing? And they're just like, we don't know. So that already tells me that it's not a priority. So what can we do further? I think Vivian and Kaleigh both touched on the interview cycle. We need to get more women in there to be interviewed. And the way to do that is to be intentional about it. Hey, we want to increase the number of women in engineering to X% over the next year. So we're going to actually go do a campaign of reaching out to really smart women on LinkedIn, finding those women, community meetups, bringing them in, talking to them. And then when you have a more diverse interview pool, then there's more chances of women getting hired, and you increase your women in engineering, which means that your company becomes more attractive to other women who want to, join. And I think that is really important. And I've seen companies be intentional about it and reach those really great numbers and create a really safe space for women to join and learn and grow with each other. And I've seen companies completely not care and just then as a woman, I'm not going to look at those companies as a place that I want to be.
Right. Yeah. No, that's just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like they don't put in the effort, and then it's just round and round, and nothing changes. 10 years later, same spot that they've been for the last 10 years, right? So, interesting. Honestly, really, really good info. Thanks for sharing. And so moving on to the next question. And Kaleigh, I'll start with yourself. Do you know of any specific initiatives or programs that you've been involved on or aware of that are aimed at encouraging women in careers in technology?
Public ones, not really. I think that there are a lot of these sort of meetups. I've seen different government-funded groups for women in tech. I don't know, in Manitoba, there's something called North Forge, and they're trying to do startups, and they have a focus group for women in tech. I know that the universities have women in tech that will help you hire people, right? So there's always a lot of those mixers that we can go to. I go to Concordia and to McGill in Quebec. The one thing that I try to encourage is attendance to Grace Hopper. That's a conference that is happening in September. So Grace Hopper is part of the Anita Borg organization, and it's their yearly huge conference of all women in tech, right? And it's, I don't even know how many thousands of women attend, and there's keynotes, and it's inspiring, and it makes you feel like you belong. It helps address imposter syndrome. And so that's something that I try to make sure people, women within my org at Google, can attend.
Cool.
On my side, to give people hope, like I'm part of a training program called Polaris in Google, which takes women who are about to go to the executive level or like who are aspiring to go to the executive level, and will put them together in a cohort, create a network for them, give them training, give them multiple summits, give them a nice gift basket, and then also that coaching I was talking about, their funding. Like I get weekly or like if as much as I want, I can get executive coaching. And that is really how you train leaders, because you need more women leaders to hire more women onto teams. So that's one program, at least at Google, and I think that is at most large companies.
Yeah, would you think most large companies then, and like Canadian companies, or mainly just like large tech US firms?
I think every company should have that.
Right.
I don't know if they do. And so, at Google, I definitely had that. I was an intern at Google. I started as an intern, and I had like Google Women Engineers as a group, like GWE. Then, each stage in my career, there was a different training session or a different cohort. It was a different week here or there. It always had weird words like compass or things that had to do with direction finding. But there are a lot of these training programs, and I don't know if there are people here who are trying to figure out how to hire women, but I think that those are extremely valuable for building your network, for giving you opportunities in case you're in a bad situation, so you don't just quit tech, but you're able to see that there are other opportunities. And then to help you level up, right? Like to give you that training that you need.
Thanks for sharing, Kaleigh. Samira, are you aware of any like specific initiatives that you've been involved in or heard of?
Not really. I remember one of the previous companies I worked at actually had an initiative to increase the number of women in engineering. And it was kind of like they had a quota, and they're like, we want to hit this number by this time. And they put a whole lot of effort behind it, and they did hit it. So that initiative was pretty successful. But it was, I don't know, I think it has to be like some kind of KPI or something that we got to hit this number, and we got to get this many women in. It has to be very intentional. Other than that, I haven't actually seen any initiative within a company that's really aimed at women and being like, we want to get more women in here. We're going to grow your careers. I mean, I've been in companies where there have been coaches on site that we can utilize and work with, but nothing specific to women. It's always been kind of like, here's a coach. Anybody can work with this person. So sadly, I don't have much to say in this one.
No. Well, that's good. I think an interesting, really quickly, for the company that you were part of that hit it because it was a KPI. Was there anything that you saw them do that was successful, helped them be successful?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a KPI. I think it should be KPIs for companies.
Right.
Did I see them do anything that was successful? Well, they hired me through that initiative. I was really impressed by the focus on, hey, this is what we're doing to hire women in this company. This is why we want you to talk to us, and this is what we have to offer. They had a lot of great leadership programs. It was kind of where I wanted to be at the time. I wanted to grow as a leader and learn a lot of things. So, and the added bonus was like, hey, we're hiring a lot of women, and this is what exactly we're doing. So, so the initiative, in my opinion, was successful.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Vivian, are you aware of any specific like initiatives or programs that you've been involved in or heard of?
So I was involved in a program called Technovation Challenge, which is basically is a yearly competition for middle school and high school girls. So what they do is like they want to basically bring some high school girls together into groups, and then they pair up like mentors from the from companies, from real world companies, basically, right? And then they were trying to solve like some kind of like world problem through technology. So they were using very simple technology to try to solve something. So my team, I mentor one of the teams before, and then they were building an app to teach people how to recycle stuff. Basically, that was pretty cool as well, that they didn't know any programming before. They were trying to do that themselves, right? So that was program still running, as far as I know, still running every year right now around the world. And then every city has like a certain group that they can form and then compete for that as well. So so that is a pretty good program that I would suggest people to look into that and join that as well. And then another program that I have been involved in before is called Women in Communications and Technology BC, so WCT BC. So what happened is they have like every year they have a few speed mentoring program. So basically, they want to support women in the field. So they actually like have a group of women to sign up as like mentees, and then a group of women sign up as a mentor. And then they were doing some speed mentoring sessions for those people to hopefully they can keep in touch and network after the event as well. And that's another good one as well. And then recently, I also joined a really cool community. It's called SheTO, so SHETO. So that one is actually is a community to help to grow women the career into the VP or like CTO roles, like to like getting them into leadership. So they have a really active Slack community. They also have like mentorship program and other conferences as well. So I think those are pretty cool initiatives. So and then I do think that like they try to support each other as a group of women in for those ones as well.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And so what was the first one? That's the like the SheTO. The second one was the WT. Will you like I guess yeah, maybe some
I had
people can
sent the
write.
link out on the chat so that everyone can see.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much, Vivian. And I'm sure actually this one I'm really interested to get in as well because it's been mentioned, it's come up a couple of times, and we'll start with yourself, Samira. But like, how do you balance your personal and professional life, and what strategies or techniques have helped you in maintaining the balance?
Okay, that's a good one. I think I've never had balance. And I don't like, I'm not saying that as in a negative sense, because I
Mm,
think true balance is really hard to find. Like 8 hours at work, 8 hours of life, 8 hours
mm,
of sleep, like that. I don't know. That's like the unicorn that I have yet to find. I think it's always kind of like, maybe your work needs 60% of your energy and you have 44 for life, and maybe work needs a little bit less and you have a little bit more for life. So it's always a bit of a like, it's always a little bit here and there. But if it's like if you're spending 80% of your energy at work for 6 months to a year, that's not going to work out. Like that's not,
mm,
you're going to be burnt out. If you're spending 80% of your energy on life, then you're probably not going to get far in your career and you're probably
mm,
stalled in your career. So there has to be a bit of a balance there where you're understanding now work needs my energy, now life needs my energy, and you kind of work with those things, and
mm,
it's up and down, and it kind of goes in waves. But the way that I keep balance every day is I wake up early, either I read a book or something, do something before work that brings me some kind of joy and peace, or I go for a workout, or I go for a walk. Exercise really helps me keep my balance in the day, keeps my
mm,
sanity. I eat healthy. When I have light, small meals, I'm less tired, less heavy. I can focus. I think better. I usually stay away from alcohol. I probably drink maybe 2, 3 times a year.
mm.
So in terms of just kind of getting everything aligned every day as much as possible, that's how I keep myself balanced and focus on the things that I really want to focus on. But I don't think I've ever really had that 50-50 work-life balance ever.
Very elusive. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's definitely, like you said, it's like sometimes you gotta, but I can imagine it's more challenging, obviously, the more things you have in your life, like family or different events or whatnot as well, right? So actually, Kaleigh, I'll pose the question to yourself. How do you go about balancing your personal and professional life? You got a little smirk. How do you do
I
it?
was like, don't go to me. I was like, okay, Samira, nice work
Okay.
on that. I don't do it like no. I sleep in. I have 2 to 3 drinks a night. Like no, not.
Yeah.
I've read the ruling. Like I know that's too much. So I think all those things are super important, right? Like taking care of your health, making sure that you do all of the right things that we all know we should do,
Mm,
or that we want to do. Actually, using the word "should" means that you're less likely to do it. But if you say "I want to go for a jog," you're more likely to do it.
mm,
Um, how do I maintain balance? It's tricky. I don't think I do. I actually
mm,
no, I do think I do. I do. So, it changes based on your career and whether you're ramping up in a new role or whether you're sort of comfortable or whether you have the energy for
mm,
the next challenge that you're like excited about. Um,
mm,
I so I have kids, right? So like I also am at that horrible spot in your career when work starts getting crazy because you're suddenly leading teams and you've got managers who you're managing and stuff is happening. And then at the same time, you're also getting married and having kids, like if you want that. And so like I had, 3 kids in 3 years because I had twins. And then I was in the States in New York where you don't really get a lot of leave. It's like 4 months off. And then, everyone's like, wow, you have a pumping room that you get to go to 3 times a day. And you're like, this is horrible. And so in those years, I definitely didn't have balance. I struggled and I had to make a change. And the change is either you quit. I'm the breadwinner in my family because I told my husband that not both of us can't be working. I was like, please, like one of us has to be home just helping, right? Being there as backup. One thing that has helped me have a lot of balance, and the reason why I am grateful to the shift that happened for COVID. COVID was a hard time, but I'm grateful that it let us revisit how we work, is that I was able to come back to my hometown, Winnipeg, which is rough. But anyway, I came back to Winnipeg. I have grandparents, like my parents are here. I have help. I am able to afford a home. I'm able to walk my kids to school. I work from home remotely. I really only work 9 to 3-ish, and I pick up my kids from school and then I'll log back in at night. And that allowed me to have this dream life, right? Have the balance. I'm the mom I want to be. I'm not really the daughter I want to be because I ask for too much, but like I'm the mom I want to be, and I get to have the work and the career I want. Sadly, as you all know, companies have called everyone back to office, right? And I have a couple articles I've linked to on like LinkedIn where it's like horrible. I think it's really, I understand why people and companies are making decisions to want everyone to be in office. I get it. A lot of great things happen when everyone's in office. For women in particular, it just puts us back in that impossible situation of one, having to go to where the jobs are, which would be like, places where our family isn't always available. And then 2, a lot of commuting when really you could have been using that time to drop the kids off or see a talent show or, be able to go and be like defrost meat or get the groceries when they get delivered, but still keep working. Now, companies don't hear this. This is because they think that we're not working. We are as effective. And I think that the majority of women, when they went to working hybrid, if they had a big enough home and childcare, actually said their work got easier by being able to be at home more.
And
so
why do you?
That's
why do
how
you
I've achieved balance, but it's not
okay?
And it limits your career growth by not physically being somewhere.
Right, and it's so interesting. Actually, we were talking about it today on a couple points. Like, you're right. Right now, it seems like as a recruiter, like anyways, companies are doing the dance where it's like they still want the best talent, but there's not as many jobs. So everyone's kind of like, oh, well, we want someone in the office 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week, or a week, and but for the right person, we'll change that or whatnot. So I definitely. It's going to be interesting to see where it actually lands after all the dust is settled, because we had that huge hiring spree. Now we're going through kind of the pullback of that right now. And it's just going to be interesting to see where it lands. I don't foresee people going back into the office 5 days a week again. I personally, sorry about that. I don't see that, but really interesting points that you made there, and so happy that you got to move back to Winnipeg. It's a beautiful city as well. Okay.
Come on. I was living in New York.
Yeah, a bit different. And Vivian, how about yourself? How do you balance kind of your personal and professional life?
I think I have to keep reminding myself work is not my whole life basically, and then my self worth doesn't equal to work. If I'm going to die tomorrow, would I still be working basically? so that's like things I need to remind myself what is my most important thing in my life, right? So how should I be spending time with my family too? One thing that I think that helped me to balance it a little bit better is to it could be the case that I have a TV show that I really want to watch, and it's actually happened at a certain time. So I will stop working before the TV show, right? And I have to watch the TV show, and that's the end of my work day, basically, right? I need to like not to continue work anymore. So and I think that helps me a lot with that kind of schedule. That's something I need to do at that particular time, and I need to stop working at that time. And another thing is make sure I have like a really good self check on myself, because sometimes I realize that I'm up to the point that I'm burning out. I feel very stressed. I start dreaming about work, And then I know that that's not really good. Then I know that, okay, you know what? I need to have a break. Let's take some vacations. Let's do something else. Let's not think about work. That's what I would think about, right? So that helps me a lot, like by just keeping check on myself, as well as like to find something in your schedule that help you to like take yourself away from work.
Yeah, that's good to kind of have those. If I'm ever dreaming about work, yeah, I know I'm working too much, because that is not, I don't need to see it, my work in my dreams as well. Yeah. Thanks for sharing there, Vivian. Okay. So in terms of kind of like the next question, we're going to go a little bit over, and also I do invite people. Love to see all the chat going on. That's awesome. It's great to see kind of all the discussion going on there. If you do have specific questions that you want to ask, please do put them in the questions bar, and we can kind of get them to them later on as well. We've got one so far, but please do ask as much as you'd like there. Now, we'll start with yourself, Kaleigh. Are there any specific skills or areas of expertise that you believe women bring to the field of software engineering, and how can those be leveraged to benefit teams and organizations?
I don't think there's specific skills that women bring to software engineering. I think I think that women bring hard work and efficiency and multitasking that sometimes, everyone does that, but I think multitasking in particular, women are a little bit better at. But I don't think there's specific skills. Talking only about software engineering in this case, I think that what women do bring is sometimes a more balanced team dynamic that can make sure that I'm going to talk like men on the team, don't feel pressure to behave a certain way. So you get less into this bro-y like culture that still, I don't even know if it still happens. Like I'm so far away from that culture, but I've been in it and it's horrific. And yeah, Samira, your cat's so cute. I know, I was like looking in the corner too. But like, I think we can make better teams just by having diversity of teams. And I also think that in terms of product design, like I'm like a systems architect, like it's fine. But in terms of people who are working on products, on apps, UX designers, anyone who's building something that a user uses, in that case, a different perspective, whether it's from a woman or from someone who speaks a different language or from someone who has a disability, can be advantageous. Then you don't end up getting phones that are too big, keyboards where you can't reach. Like you don't get like a women's travel airline search, which I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was just something without any options, and it was pink. And that was recent. That was like 10 years ago that I think Delta launched that. So you end up, and anything that has to do with women's healthcare, right? So you can bring in a focus on design and development and product leadership, but software engineering specifically, I don't think so.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And Samira, I'll pose it to yourself. Do you think there's any specific skills or areas?
Not really. I'm actually going to piggyback off Kaleigh's answer, and also piggyback off of one thing you said there in terms of team dynamics. I think women, one thing they do is create space for others more with more awareness than I've seen men do. By that I mean women tend to, because we're so afraid of taking up space. We've told all our lives, don't take up space. Cross your legs, like don't take up too much room. We feel that in meetings, especially like in company team meetings, things like that. So we're not always like taking up too much airspace. We're giving other people time to talk. If anything, I try to get the women to talk more, and that kind of tends to create a more balanced approach to discussions. I know I've been like the only woman in team meetings and groups and stuff, and I don't get any word in because I don't like I can't. Everyone's talking over each other, and I find when there's more than one woman in a group, things get balanced out, especially if one of them is in the lead position or the facilitator. But in terms of like specific skills to software engineering, I can't think of anything specific. No.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. And then Vivian, last one, I'll pose it to yourself. Is there anything that you can think of, or what are your thoughts?
I personally think that women are like, they are really great they are great glue in a team. So they actually help. They are very good at finding gaps and how things are missing, and then they will be able to like fill the gap or trying to connect the dots for people. And I think that they are really doing really well in that area. However, never give women the glue work because they're often telling them, "Oh, you're good at taking minutes. You are the only person who's taking minutes all the time, right? That's not what women are supposed to be doing, right?" But I think they are actually very good at like finding gaps at like what people need to do, and then they try to jump in and then fill those gaps themselves as well. And then of course, I think women are pretty good at juggling between things. Think about what a mom can do. They juggle between so many things, and I think that they are really good at like juggling many things. So really, they can do that really easily themselves. So I think that like in a way that I think that women has a little bit more stronger on the soft skills in handling a lot of like organization style things, or be able to be more caring, or like be able to like jump into situations, showing a lot of empathy towards other people as well. And I think they are doing a little bit better in those areas. And I think those are very important because a lot of the times like people just look at the hard skills. They're like, can you do this? Can you do the check on those hard skills, right? And then I think soft skills are very important in making sure that the entire organization is a successful organization as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And I think I'm just kind of looking at the time and I'm thinking I want to make sure that I get to everyone else's time. I had a couple more questions, but would you be okay? Seems like we've got a lot of questions coming in from the audience. So I think I'm just going to jump to those as we've got some really good ones here. And so kind of the first one that I'm highlighting here, given that the number of women in tech seems to be decreasing, do you think tech is becoming less safe for women to work in? And I'll just kind of open it up the floor. Does anybody, Kaleigh, do you have any thoughts off the hop? I'll pick on you, sorry.
No, it's good. I mean, I'm the kind of woman in tech who's like on that other side of the line where I am heard and I come across as too loud and aggressive. So you know, don't worry, I'm never not heard in meetings.
Okay.
So I'm interested in what it means about safety. I think that any good workplace is safe for everyone, right? I do think that if there are fewer women in leadership positions, there is a chance that there could be discriminatory behaviors, or, you know, instances like Samira was talking about where she didn't have the opportunities that she should have. But I think that work is always safe, I'm going to say, or it should be, or there should be HR when things are not safe that does take action. I don't know if it's about the number of decreasing women. I think it's about how serious companies are and how much effort they put into having like HR, which I think now companies do, right? There's been enough, right? What was it? Was it like Uber? I can't remember. I think it was Uber. Anyway, there were a whole bunch of cases in the news where there was horrible discrimination and worse against women in tech. And I think each company knew that this can destroy their bottom line and their chance for getting VC funding and their stock value. And so, you know, they're going to have a pretty serious HR process. Yeah, it was Uber. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's because of women decreasing. I'm not sure. I think it was maybe because people were getting lax on the culture, and it got into this like bro hustle culture that was more detrimental for women. But I would say it was not the problem of decreasing women. That's the problem with this like culture that we have our Gary Vaynerchuk's and Elon's like promoting. I don't know if people have other ideas.
Yeah, Samira, Vivian, any thoughts on that, or any points you want to kind of mention?
I agree with Kaleigh. I don't think it's the number of women decreasing causes an unsafe workspace. I think it's the culture of the company that creates an unsafe workspace, and having capable HR or people business partners, now they're called, who will step in and help people when concerns are raised. And not all companies have people like that or even care when concerns are raised, and those are unsafe companies. But there are safe companies out there where when people get into unsafe situations, they are heard and they are helped. So whether those companies are majority men or majority women, it's really a cultural thing.
Okay, excellent. Vivian, anything else, or no? All good. Okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so next up, We've got a question from Widgeon here. How does she get more women into leadership roles? And I'll kind of open up the floor. Does anybody want to kind of start with that one? I'll pick. Yeah, Samira, do you want to go? I'll maybe just pick on people. I'll make it easier.
I mean, first, women have to get into leadership roles. Leadership roles are hard. They are definitely very different than IC level roles. You're not coding anymore. It's a whole other job to learn and to grow into. And whatever got you successful as an IC is not going to make you successful as a leader. And that's one thing people have to learn eventually. But if you have capable women who are interested in getting into leadership roles, coach them, mentor them, spend time with them, support them, be truthful with them. If they are doing things that are going against their desires and need and their desires to grow into a leadership role, tell them. Be that friend that actually tells them the truth that they need to hear. If you don't feel like you have the experience to help them and guide them and coach them, find somebody who does. Connect them to somebody in your network. Connect them to one of us here. So I don't know. There's a lot of different ways we can support each other. We have to support each other. We have to help each other. We have to hold each other's hands because we are 25% of the workforce. So let's support each other.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll open up. Vivian, Kaleigh, anything?
Hire me. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I think that you need to basically, similar to what Samira was saying, is like I do think that women need a lot of more supportive, like they need encouragement, they need like people to be the advocates for them, the champion for them. So instead of like waiting for them to ask for opportunities, try to provide opportunities for them, reach out to them directly instead of like waiting for them to apply for something, right? So, and I think that it would be having more success rate in like getting the women into the leadership role as well. And then of course, like the hiring process, you need to think about what do you actually need? Because sometimes you think that, oh, this is how we work. Then you just keep on looking for the people that you work like you, right? The way how we work, but then maybe that's not what you want. You actually think about what are the things that will complement your skills really well in a leadership team, and then you can find the right people in place, right? And then I think definitely reach out to women, like create more network to support them. That will get more women into the leadership role as well.
Thanks for sharing. Anything else, Kaleigh?
I think you didn't specify if leadership has to include management, and right now there's this big there's a bit of a problem that everyone hired too many engineering managers, and so they're trying to get rid of that layer. So I think another way to look at leadership, or the way that I'm trying to look at leadership, especially as Google is doing a big shift right now to sort of wanting more individual contributors and let fewer engineering managers, is and for the record, I'm still an individual contributor technically. I'm still like I don't do any coding anymore. I haven't nothing at least in 6 months. But anyways, leadership isn't only management, and leadership is not being that glue. So there are other ways to be leaders, and I think they're even more interesting jobs necessarily in management, unless you love management. And I don't know a ton of people who do. But, leadership can mean being the chief architect of a problem that you're trying to solve, being that tech lead, or being that area tech lead, or the Uber tech lead. And this goes back to something that I think Samira was mentioning, where it's when those larger technical roles come up, do you have a sponsor who is thinking of you to take that on? And so I think it really is about sponsoring women into those technical roles. Don't just put them into management when you're going to be a lead. Give them that hard technical, maybe an integration, maybe something business to business, or taking on a big relationship, building out a whole new system. So I think there's other ways to think about leadership. Oh, and then the last one, and this I was just talking to one of my, someone on my team who, I asked her to keep growing, and she's growing quickly. And I was like, well, can you propose an intern project, and you'll get an intern, and you'll learn how to ramp someone else. She just started at Google 2 years ago, and she is now hosting an intern, and she's on that path to having a role where she's able to delegate, where she can define a project, where she can ramp someone else up. And she was even saying to me, she's like, I'm learning so much, by teaching, which is obviously, something that everyone has probably learned already. But But that's another way to build up leadership when they are at a more entry-level position.
Mm. Yeah, interesting point too about like leadership doesn't have to just be management side of things, but it could be as well, right? I think that was like an interesting distinction, and yeah, something like an internship program. I'm sure there's lots. Anyways, anyways, appreciate you sharing there. And then next question, more for someone I guess in looking to begin their career, like I guess a career change. Any advice for making a career change into tech or transitioning to tech without a background in computer science? Vivian, we'll start with yourself. Any advice? Oh, sorry, I
I
think
think
you're moving
right
there.
now is hard. The
Mm,
market right
yeah.
now is really hard. I would not suggest anyone to try to transition at the current moment, to be honest with
Mm,
you. You can take some courses to learn more about the tech side of things, but I don't think that this is the right moment for you to transition at like right now in this kind of market in tech right now. But definitely you can, like everyone is trying to read about AI. They're trying to learn about AI right now. Go take those
mhm,
courses learning about how the best practices AI, how things right now. You can do that, taking your time to do that as well. Try to network with people. You can still do that, but then I don't think right now is actually the right time to transition to tech at the moment.
mm. Certainly challenging as a recruiter, and kind of like being out there recruiting and getting roles on and whatnot, things taking a lot of time. I think I use Indeed Data Labs as an interesting tool to see kind of job posting trends, and using pre-COVID as kind of the benchmark of like 100. At the peak of hiring last, I guess, May or June, there was something like 227 jobs posted, which is like 117 more than there was at pre-COVID. And now for software development jobs, there's like 80 jobs posted. So there's actually less jobs posted now than there was pre-COVID. So it is challenging on the engineering side of things as well, I would definitely say. Um, what about yourself, Samira? Do you have any advice or any thoughts there?
Just kind of piggybacking on what Vivian just said, maybe it's not the best time to get into the market, but it's always a good time to learn and to go take some classes and level up. And because you can't just go into tech without really knowing
Mm,
what you're doing, you have to actually have a GitHub repo and show that you've coded stuff, and you have to do a tech interview. So the best way to do that is to go learn a language, learn a framework, build
mm,
something, be able to talk about it, be able to understand why you did things a certain way, how you would do things differently, how you designed it. So even for a junior level entry programming job, you still need to know a little bit of coding. You still need to
mm,
be able to go into a company and do stuff. So start learning, start taking courses, start ramping up your skills, get ready for when the market turns, because it will eventually.
mm. Agreed. Kaylee, any final thoughts there?
I think there are a lot of careers in tech that don't need you to be necessarily a coder. So it's
Mm,
also interesting for you to think about if you wanted to, um, like customer experience, customer engineers, where you're not coding, but you're helping people use products and you have to understand them. So you have to be technical, but you don't necessarily have a computer science degree or an engineering degree. So you can come
mm,
into tech in different ways. Tech writing is also something that I think is interesting. If you have an interest, you can become a tech writer. There are other roles than just being like, oh, I've seen this way to become a coder. Unless you love coding and you want to spend those nights building your
mm,
app and getting your GitHub repo, which is definitely the easiest path if you want to be an entry level coder.
mm,
I think another thing, yeah, to look at is finding a technical role not at one of the big tech companies, right? So you could look at smaller companies or startups, and I said this in the comments, like in all of the big tech companies, they're only going to hire people who have they are very snobby with their
mm,
entry level positions, which I think is not good. But they will really only hire if you've already been coding for 5 years.
mm,
You have your degrees all lined up. Like those are the big tech companies. I don't necessarily think it means we hire better coders, but there it is. Um,
mm,
I think you could get an entry level position when you're looking at healthy industries right now that are hiring, and I sort of listed some of them right now, but like healthcare, commerce, anything financial. They all are hiring coders. Like every company now is a kind of a mini tech company. It's not like it was 20 years ago when you were looking at like FANG, right? So that's what I would suggest. I'd start looking at like healthy companies. And then to piggyback a little bit, we keep saying piggyback. I think Samira, or I can't remember if you mentioned AI, but so right now, one of the best things I think, and what I'm doing for my teams is we're setting up like a Gen AI. How do we become Gen AI savvy? And what does that even mean? And like a lot of the times it's bootstrapping your skill set, doing courses. There's ones on LinkedIn even. What's generative AI? And then use it, right? Throw it into a project. Use it for some outcome, for something that you're currently doing at work, and that will make you more valuable. I mean, it's not like you're really doing machine learning or AI. You probably aren't. You're mostly just using the open libraries to do something stupid, but at least you understand it now because it is hot and it is going to change our lives over the next 10 to 20 years.
Yes, it will. Certainly, going to be interesting to see how it affects different workers. Thinking about recruitment in particular, certainly an industry that could be impacted. Okay, next, moving into the kind of the next question here. So even though there's a lot of inspiration and support that women can get in at least big organizations, why don't we see women on the higher level of the ladder in organization structures? Oh, I don't know who to start with. Who did I start with last time? I can't remember, but I guess Samira, what are your thoughts?
I have no idea. I think women are very capable, very smart. We should be in the higher level of organizational structures. My guess would be that women are the ones having the children and taking maternity leaves for a year and a half, and having those career breaks, which means, unfortunately, they do get passed over for these types of promotions. Other than that, I have no idea. I've thought about this myself many times because I rarely see women in the director and higher levels in companies. I don't have an answer here.
It is a tough question. Yeah, it is a tough question. Does anybody, I guess, Vivian, what are your thoughts? Do you have the answer?
I don't have the answer either, but I would encourage people to maybe have your own startup. Like for those of you who are women on this in this talk right now, maybe think about like, can you start your own company? Then you are now in the higher level, like the level of the org, right? You can actually like. I'm so happy to see some of the companies they have like female co-founders and stuff, and I'm really admire those people and then they like companies as well. So I would suggest that like we can start changing that as well ourselves, right? We don't see it happening doesn't mean that we should let it be, right? So let's do something about it and then help one another to be more successful in that.
Well said.
I want to share one thing that is kind of funny is that so there is progress being made for women at the very high level, at CEO levels. This is not necessarily women in tech. And like this year, I don't know if you all saw this, but it was for S&P 500 companies, there are finally more women CEOs than men named John. So that is some progress.
Okay.
But one of the things that I think, we finally outnumber men named John as CEOs. So I think a couple things. Yes, being a caregiver is a huge deal. Also, just like the microaggressions and just all the like just the poop that we take on a day-to-day will make women drop out of tech. We know that, we see it. It's just not a great trade-off. I think there's a lot to do with the biases that we deal with in terms of our gender. And the women that I have seen succeed into these higher levels of org structures, and I have a female VP, right? Parisa Tabriz, she's at Chrome. And I worked under Aparna under ads, and Jen Fitzpatrick and Liz Hammond in Geo. So these are like some big names, right? Like these are women who are running huge companies within Google. I've observed them and they all really keep it tight. Do you know what I mean? They don't make mistakes. Their communication is never off the cuff. It is always very balanced. It is always like ready to listen. It's not opinionated. And so they walk that fine line and they do it very well. And so I would just say that, one of the reasons would be because it's hard. It's a hard line to walk, right? And so that is based on bias. I think the last thing I'd like to point out is that these are positions where you get money and power, right? And we know that men aren't really, ready to hand that over to anyone, right? And this is true of politics and healthcare, right? And so there are societal impacts as well where, men are going to want to keep control of things that make money.
Yeah, I think everything you all mentioned and and all these things that we kind of talked about today, it's like it's tough to, I guess, have women in senior positions unless there's like that pipeline of women coming through. And if that pipeline of women isn't coming through, it's hard to kind of build up that senior pipeline. So yeah, thank you for sharing and kind of keep. And I know we're way over time, so I really appreciate everybody sticking around. There's just a few more questions I really want to kind of get through just from the audience, if that's okay. So we'll kind of forward through a couple more. So Grace asked, do you have any thoughts on how the field of software engineering is shifting? What are some of the skills or courses that are important for current students to learn to ensure their skills are continue to be in demand? I know we touched on it a little bit with generative AI and whatnot, but is there any other thoughts that you've got? And I'll start with yourself, Kaleigh. Is there anything else that you think?
I mean, I guess what I said was Gen AI, but that's less important in software engineering, I think, and more just, in tech. You know what? I'm not the right person to answer because in general, I just do back-end infrastructure, and the skills that are important to me are pretty theoretical, like understanding networking, understanding SLOs, understanding latency, and how data centers work. Those are big pieces for things that I'm looking for. I don't know, but I think you're asking for particular skills and courses. So I'm maybe going to go over to Samira and Vivian for that.
I'm too far away from school to call out a course or anything like that. Skills, soft skills, I would say. But I wouldn't worry too much about learning those things before coming into work. You learn most of what you're going to learn at work. Most of what you're going to learn about software engineering, you'll learn at work. Most of what you're going to learn about communication, you're going to learn at work. I don't think there's a course that's going to teach you how to work with a team effectively, how to fix your GitHub repo going or your branch going off the rails. Like a lot of these things you're going to learn at work. And I know that's not really answering the question, but I don't really have an answer here either. So, Vivian?
I think like it's still important to keep in mind about the foundations. What are the best practices? What are the good design patterns that you can use? What are like some of the like testing strategies? How do we test things, right? So those are the things that I think the best practices is still really in the field right now. Like whenever we hire people, we look for people who actually understand that. And then they may not have experience, but then they understand how they can do that. And how do you have a growth mindset to learn more, right? And then also, I think it's important to think about DevOps too, right? Because now we're shifting DevOps to be more into the developer land. So it's not like the developer just code and not do anything, right? So think about understanding how the end to end, how do you make things from creating something to all the way to deploying to delivery to your customer as well. What is involved and what are the things that you can automate and what are things that you have to do it manually yourself type thing, right? So having that kind of understanding will help you going into the software engineering field like much better. I would say like just keep those kind of best practices in mind, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then I know this will just be the last question, but I just really want to get to it because I thought it was a good one. I thought, anyways, yeah, another good one there. But what are some of the benefits that companies should offer to be more intentionally inclusive? So I guess we'll lead off with yourself again, Vivian. What are your thoughts there?
I do like the work from home policy personally. So I think that is really good, like to provide flexibility to to women or people who actually need flexible time like in their life too. And I also like nowadays a lot of the companies are having something called lifestyle spending account that you can spend it on something or anything. Like for example, my last company, they make it eligible for even having vacation. You can claim that from the lifestyle spending account too, right? So those are the things that I think is pretty good. They actually like encourage like you can buy household stuff, you can like even spend vacation and stuff, and I think that is really good like for people to spend it in any way that they want for that kind of like accounts. That benefit I think is a good like initiative for women or other people or whoever wants to use that money as well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Samira, does your cat have anything? No, I'm kidding.
You all hear him? He's
No, honestly, just the one time, just the one time. I just know I just saw the cat being referenced in the chat. Seems to be pretty popular. So
he's done with me sitting at my desk today, so he wants me to
okay.
and go play with him. Benefits that companies should offer to be more intentionally inclusive. I don't know really. I don't think I have anything to add other than what Vivian mentioned. Get out of here. Sorry, he distracted me. I do like the lifestyle spending account. I don't have it at my current company right now. We have a small spending account, but it's not a big one. One thing we do have at 1Password that I really appreciate is a good amount to spend on education. So like take conferences, fly anywhere. We put a lot of emphasis on enabling people to grow and do something that interests them. And we actually nudge people, be like, go pick a conference you really want to go to. And we got it. We got it covered. And I really like that. It's the growth mindset. It's the learning mindset. It's to get people out of their day-to-day, I'm working on this project, and get them out there, get them inspired. I really think more money towards education without the bonds that are like, you must do something in this field and then come and do something for the company when you learn those skills. Or like, go do something that you're going to be inspired by, and then come back refreshed, and then do your job from a more inspired point of view. So
I like that. I like that. I never thought of that actually. Yeah, I think that's you because if you go back, doesn't matter what you learn, you come back, you're energized and enthused. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, Kaleigh.
I think there's similar things I've mentioned before, alternative hiring pipelines, good internship programs, to be intentionally inclusive, obviously, like Samira mentioned, like KPI or like actually have a DEI executive sponsored like goal, right? Get some numbers on there, get metrics. Like we're engineers, we know how to try to achieve metrics and how to solve a problem if we can measure it. I also think it's really important to do unbiasing training. It's important to have a really clear and safe sort of like way to escalate if there are problems. And then a big thing about being intentionally inclusive is to make sure that there's mobility within teams so that if there is a problem or something that's not working, or even if you just sort of feel like you're not getting opportunities, that you're able to keep your expertise, keep your networks that you've built, but be able to shift around to different areas.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for sharing. And first and foremost, thank you, Samira, Kaleigh, Vivian, so much for your time this evening. Thank you, everybody else, for being here as well. And I'm sorry we went so far over. It was just honestly a really good discussion, and I wanted to try to get to as many questions as we possibly could. But yeah, honestly, it was a really great night, and I think a lot of really great chatter in the discussion board as well. Sorry, everybody, if we couldn't get to all your questions. But if you do, I'm sure people are happy to connect and whatnot afterwards. But truly, it's a beautiful night. Thank you all for spending your time. And but yeah, that's it. I guess we'll just kind of wrap things up here. And it was a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Riley. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Okay. Bye.